Hello weathering fans, and welcome to a very special Race for Terra community spotlight. In today's video we celebrate a diorama competition which I hosted back in September for my Patreon supporters, and which we called The Hill You Will Die On. By the way, the winner got a brand new Gaahleri airbrush from me, and if you want to know more about the competition itself, make sure to watch until the end. So, as you will see, the three top entries feature a crashed Ka-52 helicopter, an abandoned Fiat Abarth, and a Gaz Tiger IMV. All in one video. Get ready! This is Stephan's 9th entry to date in our community spotlight videos, following a Shilka anti-air vehicle and an amazing Machine & Kriega model, among others. If you're familiar with Stephan's work, the great finish that he achieved here will come as no surprise. What will no doubt surprise you is that he only had 5 weeks to finish it, from the time that he got the kit in the mail to the actual competition deadline. Oh, and this was his first helicopter ever. As he explains, he had to change his usual process entirely in order to adapt to this tight deadline. Instead of spending weeks on one stage, as he likes to do, he had to prioritize, forgo some things altogether, and concentrate on others. When I asked him to describe his process, Stephan summed it up as follows. In the end, he says, I went for simple dust, dirt, and mud effects. I added a dark brown pin wash for contrast, and some panel variation in the gray for a faded and discolored look. Well, I think it's easy to tell that there is quite a lot more going on than that. My favorite element, for example, is something else entirely. The blood effects on the canopy glass. That, combined with the other effects that he applied to the canopy, to my mind is absolutely amazing. One more thing to add about Stephan's project is that it came directly after a failed resin pour for another diorama, which had really frustrated him. Rather than give up on using resin altogether, Stephan persevered and learned some valuable lessons along the way, which I would like to share with you all. He wrote, and I quote, I am happy I did. I regained some trust in using two-component resin and learned some important lessons using water effects along the way. Still heard about the MAK, as in Machine & Kriega, kit, but it has given me the push to finally dare and correct my previous diorama mistakes instead of throwing the model away. Stephan concludes, so yeah, fall and pick yourself up. So Stephan, not only was your finish amazing in my opinion, but most importantly, it provides us all with a valuable example. Thank you for sharing it. This is Amy's 6th spotlight entry to date, with previous entries consisting of not only world eaters, but also space orcs and even a Spitfire before. As you can see, Amy also went for a resin, water base for her diorama. This wasn't part of the entry criteria, I must say, but rather a coincidence. Regarding this element of the project, Amy explains, most dioramas you can choose to redo a section if you find you didn't paint something that really needs painted first, or weathered, or whatnot, but when you pour resin, it's very unforgiving. Once it's down, and that's it. Whatever is in the space is there. I would not look forward to doing another resin pour again. When I asked her what she had enjoyed the most, Amy explained that it was the trees on the one hand, and the different weathering techniques that she had been able to combine on the other. She adds, and I quote, I love to make trees, and in particular, as these are dead ones, it left more time to show off moss and variations in bark texture. I also enjoyed all the many variations in weathering I did, working with my full range of pigments, enamels, acrylics, real-life hacks. Some of the moss is recolored sawdust, for instance, she writes. Well, for me, however, it's all about the little Fiat. The combination of white with racing stripes, and then with a wide range of weathering effects, is amazing. The colors all complement each other really well, and that windscreen is just lovely. In fact, in terms of just weathering techniques, I would say the car was my own personal favorite of all 3 projects, I must confess. In any case, Amy, amazing job on this, and thank you for providing us with the very first civilian vehicle ever featured on the channel. This burnt out and abandoned Russian infantry mobility vehicle, or IMV, marks Rick's 11th entry to date in our community spotlight. If you have followed Rick's work at all, you will know that most of his last few projects are themed around the war in Ukraine, and this is no exception. How is that? Well, his diorama represents the burnt-out husk of a Russian Gaz Tiger. As Rick explains, and I quote, "I've painted the vehicle as if it's had a drone-delivered munition dropped through the turret which has set it ablaze." Now, the reason for the sunflowers should be clear if you notice the bleached skull which is sitting next to them. Rick is making an allusion to the famous video from Kherson. Regretfully, some of Rick's amazing craftsmanship isn't really visible in the pictures, but suffice it to say that he made pretty extensive modifications to the vehicle. For example, he filed off interior features which would have been destroyed by the fire, added some wires hanging from the ceiling and from the dash, and made the rubber tires appear flat by putting them on a hot iron. Regarding the sunflowers, Rick explains, the 7 sunflowers are made by model scene and are just over an inch tall. All individual leaves and bits in paper, and one of the hardest things I've ever built. I stippled them, he explains, with numerous different inks and paints to give them variations across the greenery, and then creased and bent each leaf to make them look better. When I asked him to look back and reflect on the project as a whole, Rick said, and I quote, "All in all, I'm pleased with the end result. Like all models, I know its flaws, but I can live with it, and I'm pleased that it looks pretty much like I intended it at the outset. Having a competition deadline made me work hard on it, and I'm thinking it's probably one of my better models, which at 1/48th and my eyesight is pretty good really. If I win, that's great, but most of all, I'm glad to be a part of it." Well, Rick, you did in fact win, and that is the beauty of competitions like this. It wasn't just me who thought your project was great, taken as a whole. A panel of your peers thought so too. So congratulations on a well-deserved new airbrush, and above all, thank you for inspiring me and others. Some of you might be wondering about this competition. What was it all about? The idea really came from the fact that Gaahleri had a special sales back in June, and they sent me an airbrush for free, which I hadn't even asked for. So I thought, okay, let's make this the gift that keeps on giving for my community and do something fun at the same time. So same as I do with my students, I asked folks to help me brainstorm ideas for a hobby competition. First I thought of an abandoned vehicle, but then someone else came up with an improvement on that. The hill that you will die on became our topic then. We had a live hangout in our Discord, during which there was a panel of judges using a set of criteria which I had developed myself. Link in the description. Everyone gave their peers not only scores, but very detailed feedback, which I think has a lot of value for us as modelers. So guys, I hope that you've enjoyed tonight's spotlight as much as I have. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who is supporting me on Patreon. Your generosity helps me keep the lights on, and your positive energy, as exemplified by this video, makes everyone feel right at home in our Discord. Thank you all, and remember, keep it up and weather it out.